sometimes these are things that we just get because we cannot look alike to our parents with the mix-up of our parents. So many times we just look a little different, or that many of these things sometimes just go away with age, and that's the reason why at the time I didn't want to do extensive testing, but I wanted to see him again when he was around 4 months and see where he was at. So with this that's happening now, and by looking at him, one of the things that I'm noticing, and you guys can tell me you notice the same too, is that his eyes are more sunken, and also this forehead, the frontal part of the head is kind of growing more. I don't know if you notice that.
But
very, very little.
I'll look now, but
yeah. And as we had that conversation in my office, I made the example of how cardiologists use the echocardiogram to look at things. These are the things that we geneticists rely on. We are very trained on looking at these physical differences over time. So that's one thing that really calls my attention. The second thing that called my attention is that the fontanelle, or the soft spot over here, is actually quite prominent. It comes all the way almost here, and that's also, again, can be a subtle difference, but in addition to the eyes being sunken and the fontanelle growing up, it's telling me that there is something else going on there. And additionally, what I notice now with his liver being larger size than it's supposed to be, it's all coming up together for what we call storage disorders. Now, these are just different signs and symptoms that raise the concern for a particular genetic syndrome. There is no way to know whatsoever until we do testing, because the truth is that he's been otherwise okay. He's been healthy otherwise.
Yes.
And he's only 4 months old, so there are many things that he was, for example, 3 or 4. The other ways, and all those differences become more evident, that I can actually meet with the parents and say this is what it is. But at this point, he's very young. So what I'm telling you here is what I've seen is a constellation of signs or symptoms. That is my professional opinion. That it's very important that we don't omit that, and that we do the testing to figure out what it is. Okay. So when we say storage disorders, it's basically referring to a group of genetic conditions in which we can process effectively what the body produces biochemically. And our body is actually very efficient on breaking down things to produce energy to grow and develop. And we're very efficient on recycling things. So many times when people are born with these type of disorders, they don't have those recycle systems working really well. So some of these molecules, they can be large, and I'm thinking large microscopically, obviously, they accumulate in the cells, and they're obviously toxic for the cells, and they over time damage different tissues.
Okay.
And it's just a very slow progress of accumulation, because it's what you do every day. Okay. There are many storage disorders, and for some of them there is treatment available. So there are some medications, depending on the type, that we can provide the enzyme defect, or the enzyme that is not working, to break down this material. We can do it IV once or twice, once a week or twice, or every 2 weeks or so, and that usually helps with that process. But
so that's like a lifetime thing?
It's a lifetime type of thing. So that will be the first avenue of treatment. The second avenue of treatment, depending on the type, is what we will call a bone marrow transplant, in which it's obviously a very complex medical procedure, but what we do basically is replace the bone marrow cells,